Derek Mason to me is a guy. I think he takes a little bit too much heat for what's going on at Vanderbilt. When Vanderbilt hired James Franklin, there was no doubt it was a slam dunk hire. Comes in, wins a lot of games, motivates the team, brings a new energy. They started investing a little bit more money into the football program, and when they invested the more money in the football program, they expected better results. Unfortunately, the one knock I have on James Franklin was some of the players that he brought in. Um, a lot of them didn't exactly pan out. Brian Kimbrough, former four-star running back from Memphis, just transferred to Middle Tennessee State. He'll join former Ole Miss running back Octavius Mathers out there. But, you lose a four-star running back like that. You lose another three-star um, couple of running backs that are just left out of the program. Then you have the scandal that nobody really wanted to talk about that cost you another four three-star prospects. And I won't dive too deep into that one because we all understand what's going on. Um, but James Franklin, what he had done is he had recruited a lot of guys that were talented, but not necessarily guys that fit the mold of Vanderbilt football. I mean, you're talking about a program that academically is supposed to reign supreme over the other competitors in the Southeastern Conference. And with that comes the standard and the stigmatism that you're supposed to be a model citizen. You're not supposed to get these kind of violations and have these kind of issues. But a lot of the guys that was recruited by James Franklin just didn't like Coach Mason's attitude. He wanted to change it up. He wanted to make it, hey, we're going to be this type of team. We're going to be disciplined. We're going to play hard. We're going to do things this way, my way or the highway. If you don't like it, then leave. Um, but I would say after this upcoming season, Derek Mason's going to get an extension. Um, I think Vanderbilt's in a good position right now, a lot better than people realize that they're in.
All right, Dave.
We'll dive into quarterback. We'll move it to this year. It seems like Kyle Shermer was, kind of took a stranglehold on the quarterback position. Johnny McCreary decided to transfer out. He didn't really, he came in with a lot of praise, but couldn't just really nail down the quarterback position. And Kyle Shermer looks like this spring just kind of took the bull by the horns. It's a job his now going into fall camp? Did he hurt his case any, late spring game, or is the job his going into the fall?
It's close to being his. Now, for the sake of all things, being competition wise, being fair competition wise, Wade Freebeck had one heck of a spring, actually. He looked every bit the part in the practices. And I will say this, Kyle Shermer, when Wade Freebeck wasn't around, kind of dropped off a little bit. So I think you're going to see a competition aspect between the two. If I was coaching the team and I looked at it from a bigger point of view, I would go with Kyle Shermer. One, because he was recruited by Andy Ludwig, and he was the first quarterback signed by Andy Ludwig. So he's exactly what Ludwig asked for in a quarterback. So I think that would be my choice. But Wade Freeback, no doubt, has a big-time arm. He's just not accurate with the football.
And we'll dive into a little bit of a position change. It kind of seems with Oren Burks, a secondary guy that led the team, or not, it was third the team in tackles last year with 59 tackles, and they're kind of moving him up into the linebacker position. And Kyrie Blasingame, switched from defense now to running back. That kind of seemed to be the two big position changes we heard about in the spring. Is that something we can look for more of with under Derek Mason? Trying to get more playmakers on the field.
Well, Derek Mason has actually done a phenomenal job in recruiting. I admire the way he recruits because he looks at players that can play multiple roles. You talk about a guy that you mentioned, Oren Burks. Oren Burks was a linebacker coming out, and they recruited him to play linebacker. So, that was a situation where Oren Burks could play safety or he could have played linebacker. Turns out he's good at both, is good enough at both, and they felt comfortable moving him back up. In terms of Kari Blasingame, he played running back in high school and played both ways as well. And he's a guy that they looked at and they said, look, man, our linebackers are deep, perhaps the deepest in the SEC entirely. And you're trying to get these guys on the field, and a big need for them was a backup running back. So that was two of the big ones. Another big one was Dare Oda Yingbo moved from linebacker to defensive end. And that was a big one because he was a freshman last year, came out of Dallas, Texas. He's originally from Africa, and he comes from Dallas, Texas, and they recruited him in. He played running back in Dallas, and he also played linebacker. They recruited him as a linebacker. He got big enough and strong enough to move up to defensive end. So that should just kind of tell you what he's looking for in athletes. He's looking for guys that he could sit there and say, okay, well, if you gain another 30 pounds, you could play defensive line. Or if you run a tick faster, you could play defensive back. So I think that really goes to speak of the quality of the athletes that they're recruiting or the type of athletes they're recruiting at Vanderbilt.
Mike, can you jump in?
Coach, I'll stay on the theme of recruiting. I know we're talking about spring ball, but you're telling us how well Derek, is there any 2017 recruiting class? I know Atkins decommitted the other day, so that leaves, as far as I'm tracking, zero. We think Derek Mason's going to put together a good class during the season.
I only caught a part of that. If you could repeat that, I'd appreciate it. It kind of cut out on me.
Sure. You're talking about Derek Mason's recruiting prowess. I know we're talking about spring ball, but I'm tracking that right now Vandy has no 2017 verbal recruits after Atkins decommitted a couple of days ago. Is there any worry in Nashville about that, or do people think that Mason's going to cobble together a good class during the season?
Well, I think you've got two ways to really look at it. The first way to look at it is I've talked to Atkins himself. He's a very nice kid, very open, very honest, very intelligent. He's going to be great wherever he goes. He just wanted to make sure he's making the right decision. It wasn't a slight on Vanderbilt. It wasn't a knock on Vanderbilt. If I had to put my money down right now, I would say he probably ends up signing with Vanderbilt still, unless they just get a big-time running back recruit. I think the overall feeling for Derek Mason in this recruiting class is we're going to offer guys that fit the mold, but we expect bigger star guys, 4-star guys to start coming in after the season's over. I think the general feeling is okay, we've been here 3 years. Our system is in place. We've got players that we want. They've done phenomenal stealing guys like Nephi Lau that they originally stole in his first recruiting class. Then they got the Smith brothers, the 2 4-star. One's a safety, one's a linebacker. And then they got Joe Juwan, or I don't know how to pronounce his first name, but Williams, the kid, the young defensive back that came in. So they've been getting all that when they're winning 2-3 games a year. I mean, what can they do when they win 7 or 8? That's the big question. I think you'll see recruits come. I know they're going to have a lot of camps in the summertime, just like everybody does. I think that's where you'll see 2 to 3, maybe 4 guys come in. What the class needs is they need a Deuce Wallace, a guy that last year came in and he signed on with Vanderbilt. He stuck with Vanderbilt through and through, and he recruited guys for Vanderbilt. If they can get that in this class, I think they're going to be fine, but I still expect them to be top 50 overall.
All right, this is SEC Breakdown. We come your way every Wednesday night at 9 o'clock Eastern Time, 8 o'clock there in the Central Time Zone, maybe assuming that the coach is close to Nashville there in the Central Time Zone. So, Coach Seth Luttrell, we appreciate the breakdown on Vandy. I don't think we're ever going to top that one.
Well, anytime you guys want me on, I'll be happy to come on. There's a lot of stuff I didn't even mention that I'd love to have talked about, but there's a lot of stuff to be hyped about for Vanderbilt football. Ralph Webb, 1,000-yard rusher coming back. Zach Cunningham, first team All SEC linebacker. Nigel Bowden, a guy that we thought would be an All SEC linebacker that got hurt last year. Andrew Jelks, potential left tackle, going to the NFL next year. And then all these young four-star players stepping up. So I think, surprisingly, Vanderbilt is going to shock a lot of people. Do not be shocked if they're an 8-win football team this year. And don't be surprised if they beat South Carolina on TV Thursday night, September 1st.
Coach, you do realize we're recording this, right?
I do.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, once you go on the record, even if it's only March, you go on the record with that one. So we had Will Gunter from Fox Sports Radio on last week, who threw out 8 wins for South Carolina, and I said, hey, we're marking that down. That's the pick, right? And then he started backpedaling.
A lot of people want to backpedal, but I have a lot of faith in Vanderbilt often. Last year it was probably a little bit too soon, and I admit that now, but this year, looking at it, they got C.J. Duncan back. They returned Sherfield, who had 50-plus catches. You got several defensive backs that are 4-star players. The one kid I'm excited about, Sean Hawaii, the center, the 4-star center from Hawaii, coming in. I mean, you're talking about guys coming into Vanderbilt football programs now that give them a reason to be excited. And I think overall they've done a great job getting what Coach Mason calls the deep water policy. He wants to be able to play 80 guys at any given time against schools. Now I think they've got close to 80 guys they feel comfortable putting out there on the football field.
So, Coach, we're here every Wednesday night. So March, April, May, even in the dog days of where other people don't have anything to talk about, we will always have something to talk about. We're going to line it up with positional breakdowns for every position, every SEC team, top 5 at each position, coaches' rankings. So we would love to have you back at some point.
I would appreciate it. That would be fun. I hope you guys take this a long way. It's been great getting all this info for Vandy and trying to get the word out for them and Coach Mason, and hopefully I could be back and spread more good news.